Okay, hello. I am Andrew Walter. I also sometimes go by Roundy online. And I went 7-2 in the recent May Victory Road tournament. I believe it had, I want to say 400 signups and eventually like 360, 370 total players. So yeah, this team with Ho-Oh in it was the only Ho-Oh team in Top Cut. And the only Ho team I've seen Top Cut any event recently. So I'm just kind of just going to go over some of its strengths and watch a couple battles that happen throughout the tournament. Um, so yeah, one of the fun ones. This I believe was round three against a swordfish team. I think the Ho Groudon core does pretty well against swordfish in general. Kind of the main idea behind this team that got me starting it was just having Dragapult being able to get a quick surf off with no fake out and activate Ho's weakness policy, while also being able to like buff Gastrodon and burn Thundurus, which gives a lot of support to Ho as well. And then Grimmsnarl, Groudon, and Venusaur are just like a solid trio and also help Ho's fire moves in the sun. Yeah, so at this point in the event, I was 3-0, and this ends up being a pretty fun game. I'd never played against a Kingdra team before. This is a bit of matchup and experience here. So yeah, so they end up starting just with their standard rain lead. Luckily, I'm pretty like this Groudon doesn't have speed. I'm thinking of making a revamped version of the team where Groudon does have speed. Yeah, we're able to underspeed and get our weather out to start off. Which is pretty good. And I'm kind of able to throw out a free screen and switching Gastro, which is pretty safe against these two, especially with screen up. Yeah, unfortunately though, I don't know. I was always like scared every turn of like Kingdra maxing, like max dragoning, and kind of just wearing down Gastro, who's pretty important for this matchup. Yeah, but I'm able to get a boost. Unfortunately, I'm gonna get paralyzed for my troubles, or I'm gonna get yawned. I believe I end up staying in with Gastro just to yawn out the Kingdra because I think I should have kept Gastro awake because, as we'll see in the end game, Gastro being asleep kind of made this game closer than I would have liked it. But I also wanted the Kingdra off the field as fast as possible because I didn't want my team constantly getting yawned. So yeah, we end up getting a para on the Ferrothorn. Ends up not being too impactful. Grim gets yawned. I was kind of waiting if this Kingdra would do anything other than this. But we're going to get it off the field next turn in exchange for Gastro going to sleep, which I think is kind of a mistake on my part. Because, yeah, now Grimmsnarl has to switch out, or we face two things asleep, and Gastro is sleeping and also facing down Ferrothorn. I didn't bring Ho to this game, which is something I kind of end up regretting. Um, just because it makes that Ferrothorn very tough to take down. I was kind of hoping Ho and T preview would scare it away, but it does match up pretty well against Groudon, Gastrodon, and this Venusaur because I do not have Weather Ball. So I end up going for a double switch. They revealed Bullet Seed. I haven't seen this before on Ferrothorn. I was kind of wondering if they'd even have a grass move because some of them just go full into the Leech Seed Body Press strategy. So Groudon takes a lot of chip. I end up not setting up Reflect. I probably should have done that instead of paralyzing Kyogre, just because of the switch that happened. But yeah, Venusaur is out in Sun, which is pretty huge. Fortunately, the Kyogre switching is pretty obvious, and I think I misplayed here. I think the timer also got the best of me, where I end up heat crashing the Ferrothorn when the Kyogre switching is way too obvious. So yeah, Kyogre ends up coming in. It's not going to take anything from this heat crash. And this blade coming out, I should have known Venusaur would get one shot. This ends up being a crit, but it doesn't matter. As we'll see in like future battles, Venusaur does not have the bulk to take that without a light screen. I mean a reflect, which I did not set up. So yeah, kind of playing from behind here. But yeah, Grimm's able to come in and threaten Thunderwave on both of these. Reflect also probably would have been a good move, but I ended up kind of taking this as an opportunity to bring in Gastro and trying to burn sleep turns while Ferrothorn is not on the field. So yeah, this paralysis sensation is pretty huge. We are going to take a lot of damage on Grimmsnarl. I think Grimmsnarl goes down here, if I remember correctly. Oh yeah, I had light screen. Whoops. But yeah, with this blade coming out, that'll be the end of Grimmsnarl. Kind of fortunate Gastro didn't get hit, because Grimmsnarl really didn't have much to do other than maybe put up Reflect or paralyze the Kyogre. But yeah, this puts me in a seemingly bad position in a 2v4 with 1 mana sleep. But yeah, now that Zacian's paralyzed, we kind of have everything we need to take this game if we read correctly. So yeah, the Groudon Max is going to be able to come out. We outspeed Zacian with Groudon now. So they kind of have to play careful with that. Unfortunately, Groudon's going to take a lot of damage to a Blade. It's probably going to get close to killing us, but they end up switching it out and maxing their Kyogre. So yeah, Kyogre can't go for water moves. Pretty much only has like its Ice Beam to work with right now. And we have a Reflect and Assault Vest on the Groudon. So under max, Groudon's actually going to be able to take these very comfortably, especially once I start stacking defense boosts. Ferrothorn's still a pretty big problem though. If Groudon gets weak enough, Ferrothorn can finish it, and Gastrodon's not going to be able to do much against it. So yeah, I take this very well. It's like a 3-hit KO with the light screen out. This Max Quake is going to go into Kingdra, able to bring it down to its Focus Sash, and because of the hail that was recently just set, I wouldn't call it luck, because like they really don't have much to do, but that's going to take care of Kingdra, which is huge for me. It's either going to force Zacian back out or force Ferrothorn into a situation with no rain and Groudon in front of it. So yeah, this game's starting to turn around. Gastrodon's still asleep, but now has a chance to wake up next turn. I think I Earth Powered. I definitely should have went for a Yawn, but I think I get it right next turn. Yeah, their Zacian's pretty free to protect. They are risking getting paralyzed, though. But I kind of don't have much reason not to Earth Power that slot, just to get the defense boost and guarantee that this Hailstorm will not two-shot me from this range. So yeah, it is kind of close, though. I think that was around 70, and after Hail Chip, it'll be a little less, but I have another defense boost on top of that now, so I believe I would take it. Gastro's able to wake up and Yawn, so I end up going for in hindsight, not too crazy of a read, but a read nonetheless. Yeah, so they're in a pretty bad situation. If Zacian goes down, they aren't going to be able to switch out their Kyogre, and it'll be my Groudon, if it can survive this weak Hailstorm and Hail Chip at the end of the turn, will be facing off against a Ferrothorn with a Sleeping Kyogre and Gastrodon inside, which is pretty bad for them. So I think they probably made the right play to save their Kyogre. It was a 50-50, let's be honest. By bringing in Ferrothorn, but I read that Max Flare, take out their Ferrothorn, which is the biggest threat to this team, and leave Zacian open to attack either one of my Mons. They end up choosing the Groudon. But because Gastro was awake now, it can just finish off the Zacian with an Earth Power and force a 1v1 with the Kyogre, which not a situation any Kyogre wants to be in. So yeah, that paralysis was pretty huge for the end game. Just being able to kind of have Groudon move before Zacian to get those defense boosts and kind of threaten to kill it, which kind of forced that 50-50 that we end up winning off of. So yeah, I'll fast forward through this end game. Their win con essentially is just freeze me. So it ends up not happening. We're just slowly whittling them down while they're asleep. I believe they end up just forfeiting once they get low. Yeah, forfeit comes out. So yeah, despite a pretty weird beginning and Venusaur probably not being the call to bring there, I don't know. I think Venusaur could have succeeded in the right situation. I think it's kind of in a weird spot on this team because it kind of wants more speed control than just Thunderwave and Chlorophyll when it comes to facing down these rain teams. Like Tailwind would be pretty effective. So yeah, I believe I leave it behind here to bring Ho-Oh. The other three are pretty solid. So yeah, this time they end up leading Ensign Zacian. Grimstar Groudon's kind of just my solid lead essentially against Swordfish teams. I win weather if they want to bring in Kyogre. I'm able to pivot out Groudon for Gastro if they do bring it and want to bring it in. And I also just threaten Instants and Zacians, and as well as like Tornadus and like those other genies, just on lead. They end up bringing out their Zacian, probably not wanting to get paralyzed again. And out comes Landorus, which is probably one of the bigger threats to this team. I did struggle a lot with Landorus this tourney. Really, my only ways of dealing solid damage to it. Well, I don't know. Ho-Oh can do pretty big damage if it's not intimidated. It just really has a hard time doing that with Landorus's rock moves as well as intimidate. Gastro's ice beams usually won't one-shot depending on the build. However, we have Life Orb Venusaur. I'm not a fan of Life Orb Venusaur in general, but the one benefit it has is being able to one-shot non-bulky Landorus, which does come into play in a later set. So yeah, I believe Groudon's at -2 now. Ho-Oh's on the field. Ho-Oh, I kind of use it as bait a lot, especially when I max it, because yeah, I'm expecting at least one of these two to target down Ho-Oh, probably the Lando with one of its max moves. So I'm kind of thinking if I can just trade the Lando's max turns on for Ho-Oh's max, I think that'll be a pretty good trade in my favor, just because the rest of my team matches up well against theirs. Just because we have a lot of tools for dealing with Zacian. If Kyogre's in the back, it's going to kind of struggle with the Groudon, Gastro pivoting. So really, I just want to take away resources from the Landorus in a matchup like this, which I honestly think probably isn't super favorable, especially if I'm not able to get screens up with the Zacian in my face. So yeah, I end up wanting to reset the attack drops on Groudon and bring in Grimmsnarl, kind of expecting Ho to get targeted down this turn. Behemoth Blade and the Airstream both go into Ho-Oh. This kind of made me wonder if they did carry rock moves. I know some Landos don't, but it's pretty rare. Also, my Ho-Oh is not fully candied. I don't know if you call it that, Matt. Halfway through the tournament, I realized Ho-Oh and Gastro weren't candied and ended up candying them. I did go undefeated in the uncandied phase, though, which was kind of neat. But yeah, I think this is when I don't have my chat on the screen. I think this is when we realized I wasn't candied. I was like, why did that do so much? Um, but yeah, Zacian's getting the double boost without me getting my double HP, which is why it does about half. So yeah, I think I would have lived the Rockfall if I did have the candy. But they end up going for speed control anyway, which makes sense. Especially if they're fearing I have a Venusaur in the back, because Lando can kind of deal with that once it's set up. So yeah, I'm just going to Max Guard again, try to bait out another attack from that Landorus, get a Thunder Wave off, which is pretty useful, especially with these speed boost stations getting. I think it's still going to outspeed Groudon, though, with that. But yeah, ends up getting doubled up on again. I think it's just because they went for the Airstream. But yeah, so I essentially just traded my max for theirs. Ho is weak, but I do have the Regenerator. And Lando is now low enough that it's going to start dying to like Grimmsnarl chip outside after Life Orb, which it has. So yeah, I kind of just want to get the Regenerator on Ho-Oh. I'm kind of fine with Grimmsnarl going down. I'm kind of surprised. I don't think I set up Reflect this game. Maybe I'm missing it in my notes. But yeah, this ends up being a pretty good play from my part, just because I believe after that Life Orb, Grim is now in, or Lando's now in range of Grim. Groudon takes the blade pretty well. Did I Reflect up? I cannot remember at this point. But yeah, Lando ends up going down anyway. Sunlight is over. Gastrodon's not revealed, so I'm still wondering if they're trying to play around that. We haven't seen their Kyogre yet either. And Incin ends up coming out. But yeah, now that, even though Groudon's kind of weak now, I still take a Blade. I'm not sure if I take 1 plus Fake Out though. But yeah, kind of expecting either a Blade or Fake Out on my Ho-Oh I mean, on my Grimmsnarl, I believe I end up switching in my Regent Ho-Oh for this. Or for the Groudon instead, I mean. Yeah, Fake Out comes out onto that. I get a pretty lucky paralysis from Zacian. Probably would have killed Grim. Wouldn't do a whole lot to Ho-Oh. But I end up kind of just healing their Incineroar with that. But yeah, now that I don't think I outspeed Zacian yet, but here I kind of feel safe to bring in the Gastrodon. Just because it has good matchups with feasibly whatever else they have in the back. I do get another lucky paralysis, and Sacred Fire is going to be able to finish off Zacian. And Incin's just going to try to chip out my Ho-Oh. But yeah, at this point, the game's kind of won. I have Groudon to change the weather. And they don't... Oh yeah, they don't even have Kyogre in the back. So yeah, at this point, there's not a whole lot they can do. I was considering if I should switch out Ho-Oh again to regenerate. But yeah, I end up wanting to just kill that Ferrothorn before it can set anything up. And yeah, that's a 2-0 against that Kingdra Rain team. I get all these teams confused. I fought like no Sun teams, but mostly Swordfish or like Zacian plus one of the Ghost Restricteds throughout this tournament. Okay, moving on to another pretty exciting set. Happened later in the day. This was when we were both 4-0, up against a Zacian, Urshifu, Lunala, Feeny, Thundurus, and Incin team. A lot of pretty dangerous Pokemon, especially like the Thundurus. As we'll see, I do have plans for it, but like those plans are pretty flimsy and involve hitting Will-O-Wisps. Urshifu, I don't believe ends up making an appearance in this set, but was kind of on my mind as a pretty big threat. I think Ho-Oh deals with it pretty well. Ho-Oh's defenses aren't great though, so like getting crit through max would be doing a lot of damage. So yeah, here in Grim leading off. I was kind of hoping to lead. I mean, Dragapult's leading off. I'm so used to Grim leading off. Hoping to get a Wisp off on this Thundurus. And just throwing out Rock Slide, just to get chip on these. All in all, I think this is a comp that Groudon maxing or Ho-Oh maxing can do a lot of damage against. Groudon has Shadow Claw for these Lunala and Calyrex matchups, which did come in handy a lot. I did miss having Heavy Slam for Grimmsnarl, but like in the long run, I think like having our own Grimmsnarl to kind of match their bulk did kind of mitigate that and the matchups that we did have to fight it. So yeah, we start off missing a Will-O-Wisp. Pretty bad. It's going to happen though, especially in these long tourneys. But we end up kind of getting a little bit of luck later in the set, which kind of balances it out. But yeah, not getting that Will-O-Wisp. Thundurus kind of is useless against this team when it's a Wisp. It is pretty weak against Ho-Oh. Just Ho-Oh has enough bulk to kind of use its attacks as a weakness policy boost and then finish it off. And yeah, Groudon, I was kind of debating maxing it, but at -1 I didn't want to. I think I probably should have and just tried to get rid of the Thundurus as fast as possible, because I do kind of let it just set up Airstream after Airstream and do a lot of damage to this team over time. So yeah, I get the reset from my Groudon's attack and take this Flare Blitz pretty well. May have been able to stay in and finish off the Incin with the damage, since I hadn't seen a berry from it. But yeah, Groudon comes back in. No drops this time. Unfortunately, the Incin has +2 speed, which is something I didn't really consider at the time. So I'm going to max it and hope Ho-Oh draws in some attacks. But I do think Ho-Oh is a pretty obvious weakness policy candidate, which is why some of my opponents did play pretty smart into it in regards to attacking it. I think Pokemon like Ho-Oh and Solgaleo, part of their weakness is that like people are so used to weakness policy on them. Well, maybe not Ho-Oh as much. But it does kind of let people just use their neutral attacks on it and whittle them down. So yeah, Airstream comes out onto Ho-Oh. Isn't going to do much. No screen or burn on that, so I'm pretty happy with how Ho took that. But yeah, unfortunately, in +3 Incineroar is going to outspeed Groudon pretty easily and land a parting shot, get me down to -1, and this Rockfall coming out on the Thundurus is not going to be doing much. So yeah, Lunala comes out, and the one good thing about this is the sand will break Shadow Shield. At this point, I was debating if I should go for Max Ghost onto Lunala just to break the shield. Or not break the shield, but I think I do threaten a knockout here if the Lunala isn't bulky. But I kind of wanted to keep that hidden for Game 3 just because this Game 1 was not looking so hot. Yeah, Groudon's already pretty chipped. And I end up kind of getting played here. I think the instant switch was pretty obvious, especially with how Thundurus matches up against the rest of my team. I think it's pretty normal they'd want to keep that alive, so I end up going for a fire move onto the Thundurus, hoping to knock it out while setting up Sun. But Force and Sin comes in. Good move for my opponent. Get my attack lowered to -2, and this Groudon's max is not going to be accomplishing much. I probably should have. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if at this point I should have went for the double protect because the Meteor Beam was pretty obvious, but I end up taking a lot of damage on Venusaur that I can't really afford to be giving up right now because of it. So yeah, this +1 will take Venusaur down to pretty low health, especially with Light Screen. I mean, my Life Orb chipping Venusaur down. I do end up getting Sun up for it, though. Unfortunately, the Instant has Fake Out, which I'm scared of, and I think I end up just protecting this turn. Or switching to Ho-Oh to take, I think, the Moongeist Beam that's coming at me. I don't know. When you have 3 games in a set, I watched some of these before. Trying to do this talk through. But yeah, we're about to see what happens next. So yeah, Ho comes back in. I forget where this fake out goes, or if there even is a fake out. I think this Sin plays pretty aggressively this set, but yeah, ends up faking out the Ho-Oh. Moongeist Beam comes out. I believe this is... Yeah, onto Ho as well. At plus, yeah, Ho has great special defense, but at +1 Lunala is going to be doing a lot to it. And this is going to fail to knock out Incin just because of the berry as well as the 2 attack drops. So yeah, on the bright side, we have a couple more turns of Sun for Venusaur and Ho-Oh, but unfortunately this Lunala outspeeds both of us, and while not threatening a KO on Groudon, is threatening a KO on the Ho slot, because if I switch in Venu, they're going down as well. End up just protecting there. I don't know if Shadow Claw would have killed Lunala. I think I would have had to bank on a crit, which I did have a decent chance of getting. If this was a Game 3, I would have went for it, but I kind of just wanted to play passively. I kind of expected I'd probably be losing this one unless I got some crits out of nowhere on that Lunala. I just wanted info on like what their 4th mon was. But yeah, Thundurus coming back in. Game looking not great at this point. They threaten KOs on both my Pokemon. I'm just going to start skipping through this. End up having to go for double protect. Thundurus uses Fly, I believe, just to kind of dodge anything Groudon was going to throw at it. Groudon gets taken out, and yeah, at this point, Venusaur kind of has a Herculean task. But yeah, Ho-Oh ends up protecting. Venusaur misses the sleep out, and that kind of just glitches the game. The Fly did go into Ho-Oh. I was kind of surprised they didn't target the Groudon slot, which they were knocking out because Venusaur would have been there. But yeah, Moongeist Beam's going to finish off Venusaur anyway. I don't think I had enough damage anyway, especially with Thundurus being able to knock out Ho-Oh and forcing Venusaur into a 2v1. So yeah, I end up forfeiting this one. Would have been a lot easier if I hit the Will-O-Wisp, but it's probably not best to be banking on that. So yeah, this game I end up bringing the Grimmsnarl instead, as well as the Ho-Oh and Venusaur. I think at this point in the tournament, I think Venusaur had only won 1 game. I was like just making fun of it like every time I brought it. I had a lot of 2-1s up to this point. I was undefeated like in sets, but was dropping a lot of games, and most of those games were the games I was bringing Venusaur, just because I didn't have a ton of practice with it. So yeah, I believe this was the same lead as last time, just Incin, Thunderous. I think Zacian and Lunala. I don't think they strayed from that for this game. I can understand not bringing Feeny to a Venusaur team, though I think that probably could have helped them with Sleep Powder. But yeah, the Burn and Sleep were usually targeted towards Thunderous, who's not going to benefit from that. And Urshifu not showing up was a bit of a surprise. I guess, though, if I'm leading Grimmsnarl in most games, which this team usually does, Urshifu is kind of going to have a problem. Though I guess you could keep it in the back and try to wait until Grimmsnarl is taken out with Zacian, which they ended up not doing, but I think that probably would have been more effective. So yeah, Grim takes a fake out on Airstream. I generally live this. I was just hoping I wouldn't get crit. Not the greatest start, but does Burns return of Max with no one dying, and get some decent chip on both of these. I'm kind of just hoping to like wait through this Max, especially with Reflect. That's going to help this team a lot, especially Ho-Oh later in the game. Grim gets taken out by Max Lightning, which sets Electric Train. I was confused at first, but I think this was a pretty smart play on their part. Knowing I like to bring Venusaur game 1, just setting that down for the rest of their team, who's all grounded, just so they cannot be sleeped, because they don't really have a way of dealing with the weather. So Venusaur is going to be able to sleep whenever it wants. And it kind of tells me they didn't bring Feeny, just because you probably just use the Fairy Train for that. Rock Slide misses Zacian, but ends up not really mattering, and Ho-Oh's free to come out. Under Reflect, Ho-Oh really isn't scared of either of these two that much, and it's kind of free to go for a max. Only problem is like Incin switching in to either of these spots. Yeah, I was a little hesitant to go for Max Flare just because I was expecting Incin to possibly switch in if they wanted to risk it. But yeah, knowing their Thunderous is relatively safe to throw off another move this turn, I end up going for Max Flare on it in the Sun. Switch out Groudon for Venusaur. I want to preserve health on Groudon and also have a way of setting up Sun later in game if Venusaur is alive for it. I was also expecting Ho to get targeted down just because most people usually just want to get it out as fast as possible, especially with tools like Max Lightning and Behemoth Blade. So yeah, Max Lightning comes out. I get the boost. Blade comes out. I believe this targets down Venusaur. Oh, doesn't. Whoops. So yeah, even with Reflect, that does way too much damage. Ho-Oh is, as you can see, the HP is different from last time. I did feed some candy to it in between sets to kind of fix that mistake. And yeah, a +2 Sun boosted Max Flare is going to pretty easily take out Thunderous. And Sin comes out, pretty obvious. Threatens Fake Out or kill onto Venusaur. But Zacian has a lot of reasons to be scared right now with Ho-Oh standing across from it. I was considering setting up some boosts for Max Quake just because of the Lunala in the back, and I was wondering if it would be able to KO Incin because I'm +1. Unfortunately, the Intimidate dropping Ho-Oh's attack. Something I'm considering for later if I do bring this team to future tournaments is maybe a special Ho-Oh, just because Incin was a pretty big problem this tournament. There were a lot of sets where it was able to just get parting shots off and really just kind of mitigate the weakness policy boost. But yeah, Shaka comes out, and yeah, this +1 Quake is not going to be able to take him down. Ho-Oh does live another Blade through Reflect, though. Yeah, now that Fake Out's out of the way, Venusaur has the ability to go for a sleep or just finish off Incin or start damaging Zacian. I do kind of see Ho as pretty important for this end game. I end up just going for, I think I go for Guard on it. I was kind of debating switching it out just to get the regen faster. But yeah, with most of their Pokemon, I think Lunala at +1 is probably killing it even after the regen HP. Which is why I was a little hesitant to do that, but end up just getting a good prediction here, just finishing off Incin, and taking the Blade aimed at Ho-Oh, because Zacian kind of needs to target down Ho-Oh to protect itself. And we have a 3v2 endgame right here. Sun is unfortunately over. An Electric Train's still on the field, so Venusaur cannot fire off any sleep powders yet. I think we have one more turn, so end up opting to bring in Groudon and protect on Venusaur. We still have the Reflect up, so Groudon won't be 2-hit KO'd by Behemoth Blade, even with +1 Zacian. I was kind of fearing the double onto Ho, but I thought at least one of them would want to start chipping down Venusaur. So yeah, Groudon comes out. Kind of forget how the targeting works for this turn. I know there were a lot of misses in this endgame. Yeah, Zacian, I think expecting Venusaur to attack it with maybe Weather Ball, because I don't think I had revealed much from Venusaur at this point, other than the Sleep Powder. But yeah, we see the Meteor Beam come out. Even at +1, this is going to do a decent amount of damage to AV Groudon for a resisted hit. But yeah, Sun is now up and Electric Terrain is gone. So yeah, Venusaur is pretty free to fire off Sleep Powders. Unfortunately, I did forget Lunala's get Wide Guard. I was kind of expecting this to be like 3 attack plus Trick Room maybe, or 2 attack. But yeah, it gets the Wide Guard off, which will block my blades. I was hoping to like chip Zacian as well as get rid of Shadow Shield. Ends up not happening. Here comes the Blade. Oh yeah, Sun is... Was Sun up? Zacian just outsped. Actually, no, I missed. Sun is up. Yeah, you can see. But yeah, I live that because of Reflect. And now, I was like debating if I just wanted damage on Zacian or wanted to break Shadow Shield. End up kind of making the wrong call. I should have broke Shadow Shield because, yeah, I Earth Power into Zacian. I get the first turn of sleep on Lunala. The Wide Guard priority kind of benefited me by giving Lunala its first turn of sleep on that turn and not its second. And at this point, I'm kind of panicking and thinking Lunala is going to wake up, so I kind of want to target down, reveal the Shadow Claw right here, knowing that Zacian still has a couple turns of attacks if it wants to whittle through this team. Just because it's still a 2-hit KO on Groudon right now. So yeah, I kind of just pull out the strongest move to finish Lunala, or break its Shadow Shield, and at this point, Shadow Claw will have no trouble taking it out because there's no drops on Kyogre. I could have been bad though if they tried to Groudon instead of Venusaur, just because Venusaur is kind of going to be a sitting duck next turn. That's kind of the problem with using Frenzy Plant. Reflect goes away, but now we have 2v1 against Zacian. I was kind of wondering if, I don't know if we'll see it, if Blade can take out Ho from this range, because I was kind of wondering, because it still has +1, and Ho's defense is not great for restricted. At this point I was like debating Heat Crashing, but I kind of forgot that Precipice Blades is a single target move, won't have any trouble killing Zacian. Probably should have just went for that, but I was kind of thinking Heat Crash plus Sacred Fire will do the job. I know outside of Sun, Sacred Fire won't always kill Zacian. It depends on how much bulk it's running. Because yeah, our Ho isn't maxed attack. But yeah, we end up just winning this 2v1. We don't miss anything, luckily. Sacred Fire is 95% accuracy. Ends up biting me a couple times today, but this is not one of them. So yeah, they decided to target down Groudon. I think they knew their win con was me missing a Sacred Fire, but that ends up not happening. But yeah, that's pretty bulky Zacian, but also Ho-Oh's not in the sun, which kind of hurts it. We get the burn, ends up not mattering, and then Heat Crash finishes it off. But yeah, even then, we would have had to miss a Sacred Fire next turn to lose the game. So yeah, that puts us in a Game 3 situation. I was kind of debating if like setting up Ho-Oh early and just running through the team with a weakness policy boost would be a good idea. So I end up bringing Dragapult with that in mind, but I think I only activated my own weakness policy like 1 or 2 times this whole tournament. So it ends up being not that effective of a strategy, but it's still definitely something your opponent has to consider in lead, which like along with threats like Venusaur and like the standard Grim Groudon lead, I do think there is kind of just a lot of mind games you have with your opponent, which is what I like about these like weakness policy speed boosting teams. So yeah, going to game three, I end up kind of doing a mixture of both. Like, 'cause I can, an option I was thinking of here was going for a surf and a switching Groudon out for Ho to kind of give a surprise policy boost. But I was kind of worried about Ensign just parting shotting Groudon, which it seemed keen to do a lot last game. Yeah, you see me hovering over the Ho. I think this game, part of me thinks I should have just brought the same four. But I end up bringing Dragapult. And Dragapult does do a lot, but it does have to get a little bit of luck to do stuff in this game. So yeah, I end up switching out for OO, kind of expecting a Behemoth Blade or Play Rough into this slot. And it does arrive. It does way too much damage. But yeah, Behemoth Blade, Ho was in Behemoth Blade range last end game. So yeah, probably could have banked on Groudon missing and going for the Ho kill. But yeah, Parting Shot comes out onto Groudon. Yeah, Thundurus comes in, and I do not have Dragapult on the field to meet it with a Wisp, unfortunately. However, even at -2, I still was pretty confident P-Blades would finish off Zacian from this range. I should probably have calced this beforehand, just to see if this was a roll, because we knew Zacian had a little bit of bulk just from how well it took Sacred Fire last game. But yeah, this P-Blade is going to end up taking it out from about 40%, which is pretty huge for us. So yeah, Thundurus maxes, trying to just set up air split streams for its partner. We hadn't seen Life Orb from it yet, which ends up being pretty big later in the set, because I think Thundurus, I don't know if the time I knew it was Assault Vest, but by the end I end up figuring out it is. Yeah, Groudon takes pretty big damage from that, just because no Reflect. I hadn't calced this. I was pretty sure Groudon could live an attack from both of these, especially with no boosts on the Thundurus, which you usually don't have to worry about with this team, because like I think like Max Ghost is really the only ways of like activating Defiant with this team, which is nice. So yeah, we have a pretty huge turn there. Groudon able to live both attacks and retaliate with the kill on Zacian. Lunala's out now, kind of threatening Ho-Oh a lot, and Groudon's kind of too weak to do much. I think I'm debating switching out Ho just to get the Regenerator and max it later in the game. So yeah, I'm switching it out for Dragapult, who, I don't know, at the time I was kind of fine sacking it, but Dragapult ends up being invaluable. I was hoping it'd take like one attack, and then be able to outspeed next turn, but because of these airstreams and the airstreams Lunala is getting, that was a pretty bad plan. Because yeah, Lunala is able to fire off an attack on Dragapult. It's a Meteor Beam, but Dragapult's bad luck in game one ends up repaying it here, and the Meteor Beam ends up missing. The special attack boost is still there. That's huge for two reasons. Dragapult's Focus Sash is still here, and Lunala can't really do any huge damage to Ho next turn, especially if I'm maxed, which I'm going to do. I end up kind of not playing. The end game is kind of crazy, but I think I should have probably just max flared to get as much damage as possible onto the Lunala, because like at this point I was not winning like the speed race. They already had two airstreams set up on their side, and I was kind of just expecting them to airstream Dragapult and then finish it off next turn with, or finish it off with Lunala, while Ho just fires away. Ends up getting Max Dark, which kind of should have revealed to me at the time that it was Assault Vest. I didn't know this at the time though. However, they go for damage on Ho instead with the defense drop, which does a decent amount. End up critting the Lunala through Shadow Shield. Ends up not doing a whole lot, but the burn on the Thundurus is pretty huge. Because now all they have is Incin, Thundurus, and Lunala against this Ho-Oh. And Lunala doesn't have its Meteor Beam anymore. So I'm kind of just thinking, if I can kill this Lunala, I should be in a good position. But yeah, I end up airstreaming again. I should have went for the flare because I think flare may have had a chance at killing because we're in the sun right now. And as we're about to see, the speed was not good. I also was pretty sure Dragonfloat was dying here, but I went for the Surf anyway to get the policy activation and maybe be able to buff up Ho for this endgame. But yeah, make a mistake here going for the max airstream. Mistake for two reasons. First, it doesn't kill because the Sun one would have put us in a really good position going into endgame. And second of all, it gets off a Trick Room, which makes things pretty awkward. Just because we've set up two airstreams. So is their Thunderous though. So their Thunderous is pretty useless at this point in the game. It's one of the fastest things on the field as well. Is being burned. So I'm kind of thinking I can ignore it and try to get rid of this Lunala and then deal with the Incin afterwards. Venusaur is now the slowest thing because Sun has ran out, and I'm kind of in a dilemma what to do with Ho-Oh because I ended up deciding to max ground the Lunala, not because I really need the damage, as we'll see, because Earth Power finished off, but because Sun wasn't going to kill Thunderous, but it would speed up my Venusaur, which I didn't want with the Trick Room open. Um, and I didn't want to airstream either because that'd just give a speed boost in Trick Room. It wouldn't do much anyway. If I knew the Wild Charge was going to come my way, I probably could have just gotten away with max flaring and just killing the Thunderous. I don't care about the Chlorophyll because the Thunderous would just die. And be Ho-Oh versus Incin, which at this point's pretty good. I believe Incin had to use its berry earlier in the game. So yeah, I just double protect here because of the incoming fake out I was scared of. Incin's the fastest thing on the field though, so it ends up just flare blitzing the Venusaur, which I think is a fine move on their part. And then Thunderous is gonna go for the fly. Oh, throat chop. Yeah, they're trying to take out Ho at this point because both of them probably are pretty safe to kill Venusaur once that's dealt with. So yeah, at this point I end up kind of just going for broke and Brave Birding the Incineroar. I am at +1 though. So I was pretty sure this would get the kill on it. Yeah, I forgot the special defense boost, but it ends up not mattering much. Yeah, so I just double up on the Incineroar. I don't think it's going to have a Protect. So yeah, Flare Blitz Venusaur, takes its Venusaur out and weakens it enough for Brave Bird to kill it, but now at this point I'm kind of scared about Ho-Oh's damage on itself, just because Brave Bird's leaving me pretty weak, and then this Fly's coming in. I believe we had the Reflect up already. No, we didn't bring Grimmsnarl, of course not. But yeah, Fly from Thunderous, who's burned, is not going to be doing much. There's one turn of Trick Room left, and I know I'm slower, but I'm kind of terrified about the Thunderous having Protect, because I hadn't figured out it had Assault Vest. But yeah, it ends up being a good thing I didn't go for that Fly, because then Thunderous would be able to underspeed me and kill me. Could have went for max flare though, and just kill it earlier. But yeah, Sacred Fire ends up clinching up the game. Thunderous does not protect because of the Assault Vest, and we win a pretty hard fought battle against this kind of quirky Lunala team. Ended up going to 5-0. Eventually we hit 6-0. We win our next round. I believe it was against another Sword Dog team. I can look. Oh yeah, it was against a Blastoise team. We got destroyed game one by like a Zacian Blastoise lead, but we're kind of just able to like lean on the consistent Groudon Grim matchup and just kind of scare away Blastoise in games 2 and 3. Kind of skip through these. Game 7, my opponent was like really skilled. I might try to record that another time too. But yeah, they kind of just went for a lot of pivoting, and I ended up losing on a read where I tried to max ground their Landorus, expecting a Kyogre switch-in to happen, just because they needed their Landorus to kind of deal with the rest of my team. I didn't think they'd let it die, but they kind of had the guts to leave it in against a max Gastrodon when I could have easily killed it with Hailstorm. Good moves on their part. And then this Mamoswine team, I didn't end up bringing Mamoswine, but yeah, this Dialga Trick Room team really kind of caught me off guard and was able to 2-0 me, which kind of brought us to a 6-2 record going into this last round. So yeah, this was my third win-in situation, and I was kind of panicking. I was like, I didn't have expectations to do this well in this tournament, considering it was my first Victory Road tournament and my first online tournament in general. Yeah, I'll go to team preview. Yeah, it's another Zacian Cali team. I think this is the third one we played today. But yeah, I think this is another good matchup for Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh takes on Calyrex pretty well, especially when it's maxed. Just Ho-Oh's naturally huge special defense allows it to tank Astral Barrages and KO Calyrex in return, or to bring it down to Sash while boosting its own stats. Regieleki is kind of a problem, but with two ground types and a Venusaur, I'm not very scared of it. Dragonful, while not outspeeding it, also is immune to its stat drops. It's mainly the Landorus that I'm scared of, just because with Gastrodon out of the way or Venusaur weakened, Landorus is kind of able to wreak havoc on this team, unless I play smart like I did that earlier set against it. I end up not even bringing Gastrodon. Wasn't sure if it like have enough damage output, and there wasn't. I don't know. I think at this point I was kind of just against bringing it, unless I was against a rain team, which I think Gastrodon is better, like good in a lot of other situations as well. So yeah, this team kind of has to give up speed advantage when you're playing as Tailwind teams, but you usually have the bulk to survive them. This lead, I think I end up going for Reflect. It's always weird watching my moves back. But yeah, I don't think I realized at this battle, but like Groudon, I don't think Max is here. But game 2, I kind of realized that Groudon has the ability to one-shot pretty much this whole team when it's not intimidated. Kind of weird here. They end up kind of delaying their Tailwind and just going for the Icy Wind while their Zacian gets paralyzed. I think Zacian's still going to outspeed us after this and take out the Grimmsnarl. Yeah, I don't think this was a good move on my part. I really think I should have just set up Reflect, because Groudon and Ho-Oh are super strong against this team if they have their Reflect up. But yeah, damage on Thundurus, I believe Thundurus has a Sash, we'll see in game 2. But yeah, getting rid of that's pretty huge. We also have Sun Up, which is going to be uncontested this game unless the Landorus wants to go for Sandstorm. And yeah, Ho is out in a pretty good situation. Zacian is slower than it, but unfortunately the Tornadus can fix that if it wants to Tailwind or Icy Wind me. But yeah, I end up just going for the P-Blades to finish off Zacian and Airstream to get some boost up going into this endgame. Yeah, with how much like my rounds 7 and 8 opponents were like ran pivot heavy teams, it was kind of refreshing and also advantageous to me that this team stayed in, because I think at that point in the tournament I was kind of just going for, I wouldn't say reckless, but like overly risky plays. But yeah, we end up getting bailed out for not setting up that Reflect with that paralysis there. I mean, we had 2 turns to get it to happen, and it ended up coming through for us, which is pretty big. So yeah, we end up giving up the Tailwind to our opponent, but KOing Zacian, putting us in a solid 3v2. But they have not used their max yet. So yeah, Spectrier comes out along with the Landorus. Regieleki was, I don't think I ran into many teams with it, but it was almost always left behind. Just especially when you're running a rain team, Regieleki is not going to get much mileage out of this, just because Ho is bulky enough to kind of shrug off its attacks while you activate its weakness policy, and then we just have 2 ground types and a Venusaur that kind of scare it away. Here, even though I'm -1, I was kind of hoping that Shadow Claw would be able to finish this Calyrex if it wasn't sashed. I just said Tornadus was sashed. I'm trying to remember which one was, so I guess we're about to find out. But yeah, they max Landorus, which is generally a no-brainer against this team. I have to play pretty smart against it, or have Reflect up, which I did not. But yeah, end up max guarding just to try to burn out a turn of this. Astral Barrage comes out. Assault has Groudon, able to take it reasonably well. And yeah, Rockfall gets deflected. Ho is still healthy, and then Shadow Claw comes out. I was hoping this would kill, but at -1, it's just gonna miss out. I believe this is max attack Groudon, so like that's just not something you're gonna get. I doubt there was any bulk on this Calyrex I could calc it after this though. The Tailwind has 2 turns left, and at this point I'm kind of, not only am I scared of the Sandstorm, the max Rockfall damage on Ho-Oh, but also of losing weather control. So I end up just opting to go for the Rock Slide just to get chip on Landorus, as well as the max. Um, yeah, max Flare. I can never remember the moves of these max moves. Names of these max moves. They end up going for the speed control. They're wanting to outspeed Venusaur in late game, but I believe I think yeah, Ho. I've seen live rock falls from that, so I wasn't too scared. Though I was wondering it would be close to the Astral Barrage damage. So yeah, even with their Tailwind and +1, they're going to be outspeeding Venusaur. But luckily, I do have the Sun up for this turn at least. But yeah, Ho's max ends. They have one turn of theirs left. And Tailwind, so they're outspeeding Venusaur regardless. My Sun will end the same turn their Tailwind will. It is kind of weird how that works. Well, yeah, they didn't actually. No, that was kind of another reason why they didn't Rockfall. Is because I would have got another 4 turns of Sun, and they'd have to Rockfall again. But that ends up happening, I believe, this turn. But yeah, I didn't really want to deal with like predicting whether they go for Venusaur or not, so I kind of just let Ho-Oh go down and fire off a Sacred Fire. If I get the burn, I get the burn. They were also probably scared of Koba on Venusaur, which I think is a better item than Life Orb. And I think Focus Sash and Koba after this tournament are better, but I end up the fear of that pays off, even though with Rockfall they would have broken my Sash. I just am able to put it to sleep. At this point, Venusaur is not faced off against Landorus before, so I'm kind of scared if this Frenzy Plant's going to leave myself open. But the one benefit of Life Orb, Frenzy Plant, not even max special attack Venusaur, will finish off Lando and give us the game 1. So yeah, kind of risky not going for that Thunder Wave, going for the Thunder Wave and not the Reflect, but able to clutch it out just with the strength of Venusaur in endgame. This battle, I just realized I think the matchup is fine. The Pokemon are better fine. I just need to play it better. So kind of going in, not even looking at the lead yet, but I kind of said to myself, turn 1, I'm just going to Reflect and max Groudon, because I think I can get at least 2 kills through Groudon's max, especially if they're hesitant to bring Lando in that early, knowing they need the HP on it if they want to deal with the Venusaur and Ho-Oh later. Yeah, so here we are in game 2. I just need to win this, and I'll get into Top Cut. So yeah, same leads from both sides. I think they're probably thinking that the Reggie isn't going to do much for them. So yeah, I end up just going for Reflect and maxing Groudon. And going for the... I believe I went for... Who did I kill? I didn't even pay attention. I think I went for the Zacian first, but yeah, here comes Reflect. Grimmsnarl is still going to go down with this, but I don't really mind that just because it brings in room for like my more aggressive mons to keep applying pressure. I was considering Babiri Berry, but I think most of these battles go long enough that I like the Reflect. I think they were expecting me to just go for another Rock Slide, which is why they went for the Air Slash, maybe trying to chip on it for the Calyrex, because they don't really have a good way of damaging Groudon. But yeah, I just get a kill on Zacian. That's huge, especially for Venusaur. I was a little wondering who to bring in, but I kind of wanted to save Venusaur for endgame, just because I was scared that they could just Tailwind and kill it with the Landorus, especially when it maxes. Yeah, Ho's not as useful against this Landorus without its max, but it can just spam Protects and take some hits from it. As we'll see, it does a great job doing that this game. And yeah, even at -1, I know I can either kill or do at least half health to whatever's switching in that Thundurus slot. And the Sand Chip will finish off Thundurus, because I don't think even at -1 it's going to live anything from a Groudon. Unless it's like bulk, but I don't think Thundurus really, or Tornadus really run that. I don't know why I keep messing up their names. But yeah, Landorus maxes. Kind of the only move I think my opponent had at this point. And yeah, they do their kind of turn 2 Tailwind. I think they were kind of just comfortable with that. But yeah, I don't really know what else they could have done turn 1 other than maybe Icy Wind. But it wouldn't have mattered because Zacian was going down anyway. Yeah, so they max Rockfall. Ho takes it, gets the Weakness Policy boost. Will not matter for this game at all. And then I Rockfall back, end up taking it out, even through the Intimidate. Sash comes out. So yeah, if Groudon was stronger, it could have KO'd the Calyrex last game. But yeah, I think limiting my opponent to only one Intimidate was pretty huge for this game, because even at -1, Groudon was able to take that one out. I think -1 blades take out some Zacians. I don't know how bulky theirs was. But yeah, I am fearing the Protect on Calyrex. I think that was probably their best play, because I don't think they go down if they do use it. And then Ho-Oh is going to die. It's outsped by both of these. And I'd kind of just try to throw off a last-ditch effort Protect. I end up getting it, though, which I don't think it wins us the game, because if Groudon can get the kill on the Calyrex this turn, I think we're in a pretty safe spot to win, but the Protect really clinched this game for me. Kind of made it unwinnable. They do get the speed boost, but the fact that Calyrex didn't protect this turn means it goes down, and it leaves the I'm blanking on its name for some reason, the Landorus in a 3v1 instead of a 2v1, where it would have had to go for a KO on the Venusaur and then 1v1. Pretty healthy Groudon, which is definitely doable for it. But yeah, this kind of puts it in a bad situation. Because yeah, even if Ho-Oh comes down here, it's still going to take pot shots from Groudon and then have to 1v1 it after taking out Venusaur. If I had Cover Barrier or Focus Sash, it would have been way better. I was kind of debating switching out Groudon, wondering if they'd go for it, or just go for the kill on Ho-Oh, which they end up doing. Ho-Oh lives, though, to kind of just add insult to injury. And at this point, this extra damage from Ho-Oh is pretty huge, and we're whittling this thing down. Game is pretty much over at this point. Because yeah, we do have the Reflect up, which is why I wouldn't have minded if Ho-Oh went down, because I was pretty sure Venusaur would live one hit from this in Reflect and be able to weaken it a lot with Frenzy Plant, so Groudon could finish it off. So yeah, we have plenty of turns to Reflect left. That's the good thing about having Light Clay. So yeah, I was talking about earlier debating Fabiria on Grimmsnarl just because of how often it has to take hits from Zacian. But usually you want it down early just to get the Reflect off and be able to play aggressive with your last three. So yeah, the Fly comes out as kind of a last-ditch effort. Their Tailwind ends. I just protect Venusaur to be safe. I go for Heat Crash because kind of wondering if I had a chance to KO, because I believe Thunderous, I mean, all the Genies, honestly, I think take 120 base damage from it, but at -1, we're going to see it doesn't KO. I should have just went for Shadow Claw for the crit chance. But yeah, Protect comes out. Heat Crash barely misses the KO. Sand is over. And at this point, they just have to go for flinches, which they do get the double flinch turn 1. Kudos to them. But yeah, at this point, I'm finally able to end the game just with the Frenzy Plant and secure my spot in Top Cut. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record the Top Cut match. I ended up going in as the 15th seed. I had my opponent's team here. I believe this was pretty similar to the Aaron Trailer Kartana team. Zacian, Ogre, Kartana, Ensign, Grim, and Indeedee. This was a really good set. Unfortunately, I couldn't record it. Game 1, I was pretty nervous, just first time playing in a Top Cut, and I ended up timing out while choosing my team. So I ended up not bringing Ho-Oh to that game, which would have been useful. And kind of Zacian was kind of just able to mow down stuff, especially in the rain, threatening my Groudon, and I believe Kartana just maxed. But yeah, game 2 I played pretty well. I think I just led Groudon and Grimmsnarl, set up the Reflect, let Grimmsnarl go down, and then maxed Venusaur, which was able to finish off their Grimmsnarl while Groudon took care of Zacian. And then they didn't bring Kyogre, I believe, fearing the Gastrodon, which I had in the back, though I brought Ho-Oh instead, and then Ho-Oh, with the help of Max Venusaur, was able to finish off the Indeedee and Kartana. Then game 3, they led with Ensign. I believe I just weakness policy'd my Ho and tried to run through as much as I could. I ended up getting an advantage and being able to read a Kartana switch that I Sacred Fired. Unfortunately, I missed the Sacred Fire, which would have put me in a 3v2 situation had I hit it and been able to kind of stall the rest of their team with Gastrodon. Unfortunately, Kartana was able to stick around longer than I liked to that battle, and they late game maxed their Kyogre once their Kartana went down. But at that point, I think my Groudon and Gastrodon were a bit too weakened to really deal with it, which kind of put me out of the tournament in the round of 31, finishing in, I think, I technically it was like a tie for 17th place, but I think I got put in 23rd overall. But yeah, I was the only United States player in Top Cut, which I was pretty proud of, and the only Ho team and Dragon Ball team in Top Cut. So yeah, I'll put this paste out. I also have a rental code that I'll put in the description. This is a pretty fun team. I think there's like ways to change it. I really like the six together. I think honestly think with how often you're maxing these two, choosing another grass type, maybe like a Lilligant instead of Venusaur, I think could be useful. And you can always customize your Grimmsnarl depending on how you want to play. Um, and I think Dragapult you probably could switch with something else, but I just really like the weakness policy pressure. I think you could change the set though. I think breaking swipe. I think I only clicked once, and like when I did, it didn't do any. Like it didn't matter. Like I was already losing at that point. So I think putting a flying move here just to have a max option. I think Grimmsnarl and Groudon's a decent lead if you want to. I keep calling this thing Grimmsnarl. Like Dragapult Groudon's a pretty decent lead if you want to max this. I think you would also mess with items. I think Safety Goggles will make this a lot better into other Sun teams, especially the Venusaur. I think this team's toughest matchup is other Sun teams, just because you don't really have a way to deal with the Venusaur sleeping. You have your own Venusaur, of course, but I don't know. I just hate playing 50-50s. But I think some options you could try is like speeding up Groudon and to outspeed Venusaur, and just being able to Thunder Wave attack it turn one, but even with Sash, that's kind of risky. Goggles Ho, I think, could work, though you lose a lot of like sweeping potential if you take weakness policy off. And then Goggles Dragapult, I think, is probably the better option. Just being able to set up airstreams by putting Fly on this, I think would make it a pretty decent lead into Venusaur teams, though you'd have to watch out for the newer ones that are running Calyrex and Lunala alongside it. But yeah, overall, I think Ho is really underutilized. I see people whenever they make tier lists putting in the same tier as like Mewtwo and Giratina. Like it is not that bad. I think it's better than Lugia, despite like Lugia getting more hype because of its top cut in that indie regional. I think Lugia is pretty cool too, but I think Ho is a bit more varied. I think running a special one could also be pretty useful, though you lose out on Sacred Fire, which is a great move, except when it misses in top cut. Um, yeah, hope you have fun using this or learned something or just came to see Ferrothorn get killed on Switch In. But hope you enjoyed.